Hi and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about tools and supplies that you would need for stringing beads. This is simple bead stringing. I will be talking about the supplies that I started with when I first started out doing this 18 years ago. So please forgive me if you don't understand the terms, but I'm going to do it in as simple a terms as I possibly can. My name is Suzanne, and I'm the owner of Designs by Southern Belle, and welcome to Beads and Bevies today. Grab your favorite beverage, sit down, and we're going to talk jewelry. So, simple bead stringing. This is how I started out. I took one class about 18 years ago at a craft store and was hooked. So you would need a minimum of supplies for bead stringing. This is what I like to use. These are products that I stand by and products that I've used for years in my designs. Okay, you want to start with bead stringing wire. This is my favorite brand. It is Soft Touch. It's Soft Flex by Soft Touch. Very sturdy. I like it. Easy to work with. It does not kink. It is has a nice drape to it. And what you would do is you would pick out the beads that you want to do, measure out your string. So in this case, I would say you would need a ruler, something like this, where you measure out your string, and then I use that. I usually add a couple of inches so I can feed the string back through a couple of beads for security. That's just something that I do. But as starting out with tools, you would need flush cutters. Here is a set of flush cutters that I like, my favorite. I prefer the ergonomic kind. They're very comfortable in the hand. They're not too big. They're not too small. And you want to be sure that when you get your tools, you want to get a tool that is going to fit your hand. You want something that's be comfortable that you're going to be using quite a bit of. And flush cutters will let you get very, very close when you're cutting the wire. And it is something that is a must-have for bead stringing. Another must-have for bead stringing, starting out, crimping pliers. This pair of crimping pliers will crimp all sizes of crimp beads or crimp tubes. It's something that I prefer that when I teach people that they use a crimp tool. There are other ways to crimp, but they're not my favorite, and they won't be discussed here. They will just be what I do and the reasons why I do the things that I do and have done for the last 18 years. But this one set of pliers is great. It does, it's a chain nose plier, and it'll crimp 3 sizes of crimp beads or crimp tubes, whichever you prefer. Anyone is fine. When you're starting out, I didn't start out with expensive tools. There's very inexpensive tools out there to buy. And the further you get into it, you might decide that the cheap ones are not for you. So, at some point you may decide you want to upgrade your tools, but these are just minimum of what you would use. Round nose pliers, a must for making loops when you make earrings. I prefer the thinner tipped round nose pliers. They're smaller, make the loops smaller. Again, something that I prefer, as I don't like, I've seen there are other pliers that have bigger, round nose. I don't like those. Not my preference to use. I've used them, but they're just not my preference. So I like the thinner round nose pliers. They're my favorite to use. And you want some flat nose pliers in case you wanted to flat crimp something. Not my favorite way to crimp, but people do it, and it works for a lot of people. It doesn't for me, but some people like it. So, you know, if you don't want to invest in a crimp tool, you can always flat crimp. But they come in handy for making bends in wire, lots of things. They just come in handy. Chain nose pliers, kind of like flat nose, but again, they're more tapered towards the end like a round nose are, but they're flat. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. It's a combination of like the two pliers. It's like a very, you can get into narrow spots. And again, good for making bends, good for holding jump rings. And then the last thing that you would need, that I would suggest, is a bent nose plier. Again, good for holding jump rings if you want to open and close a jump ring. And later I'll be showing you how to do jump rings. Jump rings are tricky. They are not easy to learn, and they are frustrating, but if you take practice, it works. Trust me. And finally, as for supplies that I use when I do bead string, these are optional, and I prefer to use them because it makes a more professional look. But anyway, first we have crimp tubes, and I'll show you the crimp tube here. It's kind of small, so it's hard to see, but here, let me turn the camera down. And crimp tubes. I don't know if you can see them, but they're very small. They're something that I like. I prefer them to crimp beads. But if you don't like crimp tubes, there's the crimp beads. But you also want to make sure that you're using the right size for the wire that you have. Beadalon brand of wire will tell you on here what size crimp tubes that you would need and what size you would use. This is an empty spool, but it shows you on there what size you want to use for crimping this particular size wire, which is 0.15 inches. And your crimp tubes, crimp beads are going to vary by the size of the wire. But your crimp tubes and your crimp beads, they're going to vary in size. And another thing that I like to use that is optional, crimp beads are not optional when you're bead stringing, unless you're using a material that you cannot. But in simple bead stringing that I'm talking about here, that is what you would use. You'd use crimp beads. These little horseshoe shaped objects, I'm not sure if you can see them. The horseshoe shaped I'm holding up here. Right, okay, there we go. The horseshoe shape we have right here, that is called a wire guardian. They protect the wire from wear and tear on the clasp. I recommend using them. You can skip them. You can use French wire in place of these, but I think it makes a more professional look for your jewelry. Crimp covers, again, this is an optional thing. They're shaped like a C. And they look something like this. I can get it in the picture here. It's shaped like a C, and then you just cover your crimp beads or crimp tubes with this, and it gives it a more professional look. I like the more professional look. Again, you can skip it. It's optional if you don't want to use it. But I don't think it makes a very finished piece if you don't. But again, all of this is personal preference that I'm talking about here. So, you know, a lot of people will do things the way they want to do them, and that's fine. I think everybody should do it the way they want to do it. But when I do things, I will explain the reasons behind why I do what I do. And this is a crimp tube. And that's really basically the basics that you would need for bead stringing. This is just an insight into the tools that you use. My next video that I'll be doing will be jump rings. We're going to talk about jump rings probably in another week or so. I will do a video and post the video for you to see. I'll walk you step by step how to open and close a jump ring properly. It's not hard. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice, but it's worth it in the end. A lot of people have their ways that they do things, and that's fine. The way, you know, please engage with me how you do things. But I do request that you don't tell people that they're doing things wrong. I'm not going to tell people that they do things wrong. I am not going to judge people for how they do things. But I will give my reasoning behind why I do what I do. And it's because of experience and knowledge that I've gained over the last 18 years of doing this. So that's why I feel comfortable in saying that everybody has their own way of doing things, and that's great. And I'd like for you to engage with me. If there's something that you'd like to see, please let me know. I'll be glad to cover the topic. But again, like I say, this is just going to be simple jewelry 101 that we're doing here. And it's fun. I'd like to make it entertaining. I'd like to engage people with this with me. And I feel like that there's some people out there who still don't grasp how to do things. And so with that, I'm going to try to make things as simple as possible. If you need an explanation, please let me know, and I will be glad to answer in the comments, you know, my reasoning behind what I do. I love it. It's a hobby I picked up. You know, I started beading when I was in my 30s, so it's been 18 years. I like it. I'm going to keep these videos probably less than 30 minutes just to keep everybody interested. And please feel free to comment. Feel free to give me your tips and tricks that you use. I'd like to hear them. I'd like to know what other people do. And I hope you enjoy this. And till next time, I'll see you. We'll be talking about jump rings. So, thank you.